Okay, so all right, so we are looking at the leaderboard here. We just finished playing the last round of the round robin, and it was a pretty intense finish with Sweden smoking New Zealand to knock them out of the top 8. And here we have the leaderboard. So Italy had to pick from the bottom 4 teams, and I think that it was probably pretty close for them whether they wanted to play against China and Iceland. But Iceland's a pretty scary team. They've won the event before. In their match against Italy, I think the final score was single digits, 9-7 over 16 boards or something close to that. What do you guys think about Italy's choice, their decision to pick China?
I think it was pretty clear cut. China is certainly, the least accomplished of the teams. Maybe, USA 2 is not really so accomplished on the international scene, but on the national scene, certainly they, probably warrant not being. But, overall, I think China was definitely the clear choice for the Italians.
I think it probably came down to between China and Iceland. I actually thought there was a good chance they were going to choose Iceland.
Well, I think Iceland's winning of the Bermuda Bowl, in '91 definitely just took them out of the discussion right away, I don't think Sweden was in the discussion. USA 1 was definitely not in there. And I think that in the end, that was definitely their 2 choices, but with Iceland having a Bermuda Bowl win with I believe I know it's one partnership, but they weren't the same exact partnership that won. And then, then John Balderson and Thor, who have been just a mainstay on the Icelandic team forever.
Right. And so do you guys think that China has any shot against Italy? Do you think that it's going to be a close match, or what do you...
I think it rates not to be a close match, but in bridge anything can happen. So I'm certainly rooting for some fireworks, even though I know the Italian team, very well. I would always root for a good bridge match no matter what,
Sure. It surprises me that the China team is completely different than the team that made it to the semifinals 2 years ago.
Yeah, that does surprise me. Jack Zhao and Fu Zhang, 2 guys who have been on the Chinese team, no longer playing for China. But it just goes to show that in that country, bridge is coming on strong. And I recently got back from a tournament in China where I had a great time. The tournament was well run. And, I think they're doing really a lot of the right things over there,
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. China's it's a big threat that they're able to make the playoffs with a completely different team 2 years later. I mean, they must have depth. We don't see a lot of their players in the North American Nationals, although there have been some good runs by some Chinese teams. In the Vanderbilt this year, the team you played, John, in the Vanderbilt, are any of them from China, or are they an American
team?
There
were a couple from China. I'm not sure if there were a couple from the States also that were of Chinese descent, but I'm not actually exactly sure. I know one guy that is on this Chinese team was actually a junior around the time we were juniors. But I think he didn't get to play in one tournament before. Yeah, I think his name is Jing Liu, Liu. And I played against him in Tianjin in September, and we talked about going to the Bermuda Bowl, and he played in Beijing, but I don't think he played before that. But he was a real nice guy, and against us in Tianjin, he played very well. So, I don't think China has, very much a fighting chance, but, like I said, anybody can win.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, obviously everybody's expecting Italy just to walk away from the match, and I think everybody feels the same way you do. Nobody wants to see a blowout. Everybody wants to see Italy have to fight it out, but of all the matchups in the quarterfinals, I think that everybody unanimously thinks that Italy's going to win. So after Italy decided to pick China, then the Dutch were left with USA 1 and Iceland and Sweden to choose from, and so they chose Iceland, and Jason, you thought Italy might have chosen Iceland, so you think it was a clear choice for them?
Yeah, I think it was a clear choice, and especially the fact that the Dutch have a 14M carryover playing Iceland. that makes it even more clear. I mean, both of the USA 1 is a very dangerous team, as is Sweden. I mean, the Swedish pairs can take out anybody on a given day. They have a lot of history of success.
Right, and I definitely I think that that's going to be the best match of the Dutch against the Icelanders. Those guys are just going to duke it out right start to finish. Those are both teams of grinders. I think it's going to be a very low scoring match, and I really think it's going to be an amazing match. That in my opinion is going to be the match that you really can't call.
I agree with that for sure. I think it's I think that I played with John Balderson and Thor, and I definitely would say that they play very strong, and it's going to be a tough. And I play with Luke Verhees and Rico Van Puren, so they play tough as well. I think it's going to be a great match to watch, and in true fashion, it's going to be a grind, for sure. I would say probably on paper, the Netherlands is a favorite, but maybe a smaller favorite than most people would just, looking at the scores.
I would say also moving on, the USA 2 Sweden match is going to be very, very close to call, although my heart's with my friends on the USA team. I think that could go either way.
Yeah, I spoke with some members of the USA team, and they were definitely frustrated when they played Sweden, how they felt like they let a couple big hands get away, and they definitely weren't happy with the fact that Sweden was coming back in. And that tournament I just played in China, Bjorn and Peter are playing together. They won everything, along with actually Fredrik Nystrom playing with Johan Upmark. So, they won both. They were 1-2 in the pairs, and they won the team. So, they're on a roll now, and, I'm obviously rooting for the USA, being American and being very good long-term friends with the, team. But, definitely I would say they are not happy with their matchup, given how well they played throughout, the tournament.
I definitely think that nobody in the top 8 was happy to see that Sweden got through. I mean, I think Sweden is just they're one of these teams with just 3 strong pairs, and Ferdinand and Felinius, and they're really dangerous. We just saw them go to China and just kill a couple of really strong tournaments as a team, and no matter what, sure, they struggled a little to get through in the round robin, but this is a new event. There's really small carryover, and they're a major threat to win this event. I am sure that Italy was unhappy to see that Sweden got through, and I think that everybody that's in there did not want to see them come in, because they're really, really, really dangerous.
Yeah, I'd be going. They're tough.
I think tournament they were actually third, going off at 7.5 to 1, which is higher than any other team besides USA 1 and Italy to win it by the betting people.
Yeah. I still think that USA 2's got to be a favorite in the match. I think that Sweden's biggest problem is their emotions, that they definitely get into these matches, and sometimes when things go badly, they really get hit hard. Like they carry momentum very well, but also when things are bad, they really, the tables turn for them very quickly. And I think that the American team are the type of team that can just, hit you with a stomach shot and then a couple quick head punches, and you get knocked down pretty fast. Like they're really aggressive, and when things start going well for them, they are really good at adding to the fire, at adding imps to the board. And I think I just predict that in that match at some point, the Americans are going to have a really big set, and that's going to take a lot out of Sweden, and I think USA is going to win.
Yeah, I think I would put it at pick'em, though. I think USA is playing their best bridge, and, if that carries, but like you said, it's a whole new match, and, I believe that the Swedish team is very good, and if I made USA to a favorite, it would not be a big one,
So that leaves us with USA 1 against Israel, the fourth forced matchup. Nobody picked USA 1, and for obvious reasons. I mean, they're probably the most successful team in bridge over the last couple of years, or at least in the most successful team that's in this Vanderbilt, or rather in this Bermuda Bowl. And do you think? I mean, Israel didn't. It's weird coming fourth. You always end up with the best team out of the bottom four. It kind of sucks to be fourth. As hard as Israel, like they maintained their position in fourth or for pretty much the whole event. They were a little higher for a while, and it seems like fourth is you get really punished. Wouldn't there be a better way that fourth doesn't get nailed so hard with such a hard matchup in the quarterfinals?
Well, I mean, it is a very hard matchup, but in normal, the number one USA team is going to finish in the top four, usually. But I think it's kind of, sometimes it's like two-team fourth. Yeah, it does get punished, but as you can see, the round robin kind of like has to count for something. And here we had like three clear, teams that sort of, I guess Israel was like clear over 5th, 6th, and 7th too, but, it was definitely clear that the three teams that played the best were the Netherlands, Italy, and USA too. And it's unfortunate that they had to play such a strong 5th team, the Fleischer team, which has had so much success over the past couple of years, with Levin and Weinstein playing as good a bridge as anybody. Maybe not necessarily did it come out in the Butlers here, but I'm sure that they were playing the tougher partnerships from team to team.
Right. That's one thing that people don't understand when they're looking at the Butler scores and seeing which pairs are up at the top of the leaderboard is for a team like United States, especially USA 1, Levin and Weinstein played every match against every strong team, and since they don't factor in the quality of your opponents, if you're sitting out the matches against the teams that are minus an impa board, you're gonna end up doing worse than your teammates. So the Butlers are a little artificial, but at the same time they are obviously an indication of how good the results were at your table. They just don't show the quality of your opposition, and
that's what makes the Italian team look so impressive, is that two partnerships were 1 and 2. So at some point, somebody was playing the weaker of the two, and it just goes to show how strong when your third partnership is Giorgio Devon and Antonio Cementa. I mean, like, that speaks,
Right.
Do you guys think that Italy brought the right three partnerships to this event? I know there's a bit of controversy whether Antoni and Nunes should have come. They're ranked number 1 and 2 by the WBF, or whatever that's worth.
I'll tell you in about a week whether I think they brought the right partnerships. All the way with the gold medal, they definitely brought the right team. If they don't, then they probably mess up. I think that I believe very strongly in team chemistry, and if these three pairs would grind together, that no matter what you think about a pair on paper, I think that a right decision might be three pairs that play their best together.
I completely agree, and it seems like that even may more so be the case, with this team. They've all, a lot of them have been friends for, 30 years, 40 years, so, I definitely think that team chemistry played a little part, and, if it's what they decided and it's how the Italian Bridge Federation, decided that, well, they are ranked number 1 and 2, but we're going to be good with these three, then, But I don't think it's happened really in a lot of other sports where there's been like a number 1 ranked, players in the world or whatever that were kept off of a national team,
Out of a world championship.
Yeah, and out of a world championship.
Without an attempt to get in. They didn't even, it's not even like they lost a key match to get knocked out. It's pretty weird. It's definitely...
Like Brazil in the World Cup didn't have Ronaldinho on their team, and, but at that point in his career, he was worse than the other two guys that were in the position in front of him, so... he may have been the biggest name and the star from the previous, 4 years, but he wasn't at the time the very best,
And there's also something to be said about the investing in their future. They knew that Medal was going to play a key role in their team for a long time to come. And
Yeah.
if it wasn't going to make a huge difference to their chances to win, then getting he and Norberto to have some experience and play in these World Championships, I think that's really important as well. And obviously the team won the European Championships and clearly demonstrated that they're among the best team as the six of them. So with or without Fantoni Nunes, there's no doubt that Italy put together a team that is the favorite to win the event, which says something about their country, but it also says something about not having professionals, not having clients on the team really makes a huge difference to their chances to win both.
Sure. The Italians
have really impressed me as well. I mean, they're right there at the top of the Butler. They were almost at the top of the Butler for the European Championships as well, and the other players on the team openly admitted that they played the best of all the pairs, so that says a lot.
Right. Yeah, and they just absolutely crush every European tournament. They're definitely the cream of the crop here. Have set themselves apart, and it'll be up to all of the other teams to sort of, do their best when they play Italy, because I would say...
The thing is that it's important to realize is that there's now 3 matches to go to win the World Championships, and Italy's, probably, I think they were always a big favorite to win the event, and I think that part of their being a favorite was the fact that they were really likely to win the round robin and get to choose their opponent for the quarterfinals. And this, they obviously have a big advantage. They're the most likely team to get through the next round. But each of these teams have to play 3 straight matches where, even if you're a favorite, you're not much more than a coin flip. Even the better teams are not more than aren't going to win their matches more than 5% of the time or whatever. So in order to win the World Championships from this stage forward, Italy's they might have an easy quarterfinal match, but they're gonna if both the American teams win, they're gonna have to play against the Netherlands in a 96 board match, and then the winner of an American team. They're so far from a world championship, and they have so much can happen in 3 days that even if they were 60% favorites in both of their quarterfinals or rather their semifinals and finals matches, they're still not. They still are not more likely to win it than not.
Yeah. What do you think of their choice to play the winner of the USA 2 Sweden match?
I really don't know what factored into their decision. Obviously, they had to consider the fact that only their decision only matters if one of the American teams loses. So I guess they figured they would rather play against Sweden than USA 1 in the semifinals, and they were willing to play against USA 2 rather than Israel. So those are the only 2 things that I could think of why they made that decision. I don't think that anybody in the event gives, or especially the Italians and the European teams, give USA 2 as much credit as we probably do as their friends and growing up with them and seeing their success and being a part of the U.S. trials and watching them just really outclass for 4 days the nickel team and the diamond team. It was, for us, I think it made us all clear to us that they were a major threat to win the Bermuda Bowl. But even seeing the odds and hearing people talk about who they think is going to win the event, nobody gave USA 2 much of a chance. And I certainly, from the start, think that this team is a major threat. And I don't think that the Italians realize how hard their match is going to be when they play against them, if they play against them.
Yeah, I think it was... they don't feel so bad about playing USA 2. They're certainly, I don't know if they're not allowed to, but they're not going to pick out of the Netherlands bracket, the Netherlands and Iceland, because they assume the Netherlands is going to win. And you can't pick out of USA 2 Israel either, because if USA 1 does lose to Sweden, now they're playing the USA 2 in the semifinal. That would be ridiculous, So I think they were kind of left from picking the least of all evils, in my opinion.
So the one thing we never talked about was Israel against USA 1, and I think this is also going to be a grind. Actually, one of the pairs on Israel is one of the only pair in the entire event that's actually won a match against the Fleischer team in the last couple years since it's been formed, and that's Ginosar and Pachman played against them in the Rosenblum last year and knocked him out, the Fleischer team. But other than that, nobody that's in the Bermuda Bowl has beaten this team in a knockout match, the Fleischer team. And do you think that the Fleischer team being in the bottom four qualifiers, do you think that's going to affect their confidence or their chances in the match and in the event?
I don't think it'll affect their confidence at all. Not their confidence per se. I think that this Fleischer team obviously has been, one of the best, if not the best. Definitely they have the best record in the past 2 years in terms of the national events in America. But I think especially with Marty and Michael playing well, if they continue to play as well in the knockout stage as they did in the round robin, then they're going to be a very, very tough team to beat, because I think Chip and Lou, they'll get their act, and I think they struggled a little bit. I just saw their Butler score, so I don't know their result, I don't know their luck, I don't know their anything else, but I have played against Chip and Lou many times before, and they seem to beat me every time, so they play very tough,
So it's too bad for them that you're not their semifinal or quarterfinal opponent in the Bermuda Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, other people probably aren't so, intimidated by the Fleischer team as I am. And I play with Ron and Eldad, and they play very, very well. We lost the Italians in the Spingold, who played just phenomenal in the last quarter, but up until that, it was a 3-amp match, So, Ron and Eldad play well. The Herbst brothers, they've been playing forever, and Mike Burrell playing with his partner. That's a tough team, But I just think USA 1 has too much firepower, and with Bobby and Steve especially probably playing all the boards or sitting out at most one segment, it's going to be, they're going to be good. USA.
Yeah, I think that's something that should be said, is that Levin and Weinstein are, we're very likely to see them play the rest of the boards of the event, or maybe sit out. 48 boards a day is not that taxing. It's we've seen Mextroth and Rodwell do this in the Bermuda Bowl, where they get to the round robin, or get through the round robin, and then they start playing every board after that. And do you think it'll affect them when it gets deeper in the event? Do you think that playing 48 boards with screens is too much, or do you think that they're just going to be lights out for the next week?
I don't think 48 is so much. I think, a little bit is with the schedule. It seems like you get more time, but really, you're going out to dinner and so I would say that, since we play 64 in the States, I think that they won't be so burned out playing 48, even though they have been playing for, a long, long time already, in a much more grueling. What?
They've been playing for 1 full week, 7 days so far, but they haven't played all the boards up until now. I think that they've been playing their 2/3 of the matches, or maybe a little bit more. And
I think much. Well, definitely more. At some point, I think they played 272 boards after the 18th round. I don't know how many of the last round, but they played, or not 207, but.
That's too many points.
They've only been playing 48 a day too. Like you said, with U.S. Nationals, there's been quite a few times where they've even played 64 boards, back-to-back days. I don't think endurance is going to be a factor for them.
Yeah, they played 240 boards.
240 out of 18 matches. They played.
So that's more than anybody else in the event, except for Ben Robles and Paca.
Okay.
Joaquim Paca from Chile, who played 272.
Okay, so we all sort of have the same opinions about all these matches, and that we're going to see. Do you guys think USA against USA, and Italy against the Netherlands for the semifinals, or does anybody see anything different than that happening?
I see that happening with USA, Sweden being a pick'em, so it'll either be, if that happens, it'll be Italy, Sweden, and USA 1, Netherlands. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but I would say, I'm gonna say that USA 2 is a favorite. I'm gonna go on and put my pick in there. So we'll go USA, Italy, Netherlands, which would be a phenomenal final. Any final would be a phenomenal final, you know.
Yeah.
But definitely that would be, you know, both two, like, really, first of all, you have a lot of the inter-country stuff going on with the USA match, and then Italy, Netherlands having the 1-2 teams from the round robin, you know, playing in the semifinals, because there's, you know, the rule that if two USA teams are in, that they have to play each other in the semifinals, or two teams from the same zone outside of Europe, because Europe could easily have three.
What do you think about the two American teams being forced to play against each other in the semifinals? Do you think that making sure that there's one non-American team in the finals is playing for gold? Do you think that's a good thing, or do you think it's unfair to you know, Italy, that they don't get to just choose their semifinal opponent?
I think it's overrated. I do think that it's unfair. Although things being, you know, I mean, in the end, you're gonna have to beat three really good teams anyways, and if you know, I mean, it's usually in the end the two teams that are there, you know, played the best, and you know, I do think it's unfair, and to both the USA and to non-USA teams, you know, but it's how it has been for a while, and at least according to my knowledge, it's how it's going to be. So, but, you know, I would like to see some people, you know, speak if they really truly feel that it's completely necessary now, when I think bridge is such a game loved internationally that people will watch big bridge tournaments even though it's between two USA teams, you know. If that were to happen, or two Italian, you know, but they don't get two teams, so.
Let's take a quick look at the Venice Cup. In the Venice Cup, we saw that USA 2 squeaked in front of USA 1 to win the bracket, to win the round robin, which gave them, in my opinion, a really big advantage going into this semifinals and quarterfinals. And also we saw a couple big things happen at the bottom. In the last match, we saw France, the Netherlands, and the Germans duking it out for the bottom two spots. And the Germans, Sabine and Danielle, Sabine Auken and Danielle van Arnhem, they're, you know, arguably the best pair in the world, didn't qualify for the semifinals, the quarterfinals again. But so USA 2 won the right to pick between the bottom four teams, which were Sweden, Indonesia, Netherlands, and France. And I don't think that there was a chance that anybody was going to choose France, regardless of their struggles through the round robin. France is, without a doubt, the biggest favorite to win the event that any team has. They have the three strong pairs. They win the European Championships pretty much every year, and they're, you know, they're a major. They were the big favorite going into the event, and so nobody was going to pick France. But that left so USA 2 won the right to pick, and so they were to choose between Sweden, Indonesia, and the Netherlands, and so they chose Indonesia, which seemed like a clear-cut choice. Indonesia is the only team that qualified that, as far as I'm aware, has a lot of international experience. It has no international experience. The rest of these teams seem to have be mainstays in women's international competition. So they picked Indonesia, and they also won the right to choose their semifinal matchup, which let them avoid the French until a potential matchup with the French until the finals. So USA 1 then was to choose, and they chose who did they choose? They chose
Sweden.
The Netherlands, and they had a 16M carry over the Netherlands, and I think that they probably had a pretty close choice. They obviously were not going to choose France as well, so they were to choose between the Netherlands and Sweden, but I guess they probably went with their carryover, and also the Dutch seemed like they were struggling a little bit more, so they chose the Netherlands, which left England with Sweden and China with France. You guys talk about, do you know have you been following the women's at all, the Venice Cup?
Well, I think something to go with the French is, this isn't, although it's the same six women who have been mainstays on the French team for a long time, they recently switched two of their partnerships. Catherine Davidio no longer plays with Danielle Alouche-Gavillard. She now plays with Veronique Bassis. And Johanna Neb plays with Danielle Alouche-Gavillard. And So that might be a little sign as not only were they struggling in the round robin, but they're two new partnerships. And so maybe they're not really as strong just yet as they have been in the past years. And maybe that'll, all change the next time. But I think, although I do agree that out of those 4 teams, they're the team you want to stay away from. Benedict and Sylvie are number 3 and 4 ranked women in the world. They've been together forever. And the other 4, even though they're new partnerships, are great, women's players in their own right. It was nice, in my opinion, to see both USA teams do well. They're both very good teams. England is, they're a very good team. China, a very good team. Sweden started out very well and, maybe, kind of came down to what people more about expected. But it's nice that they, had a very good showing and, they're going to be a tough, solid team to play against. Indonesia is the big surprise, obviously, which it's nice to see new countries always get in and, you get to showcase some people you've never seen before, And the Netherlands also have been very good over the past years. And all this, Indonesia replacing Germany is probably the only, real huge surprise out of these top 8 teams, I would say.
Right, and I definitely think that without a doubt, the best matchup for this for the first round, the quarterfinals, is going to be France against China. China is also a major contender that maybe the other pre-tournament favorite to win. They are always in the running for gold, and I think that despite their softer finish or softer round robin results like France, it's a new day, it's a new event. I think that France against China, nobody wants to play the winner of that match, and unfortunately for USA 1, or USA 2 is guaranteed not to play against them. It's possible if both American teams win, which is quite. I think that US 2 is a lot more likely to win than USA 1 just because of their matchup. It seems to me that it's very likely that it sucks for England that they're gonna England against the Netherlands England against Sweden, that the winner of that matchup is gonna have to play the winner of France and China. They have the toughest road to the World Championship.
Agreed.
Yeah. So. And in the seniors, this is I for one am overwhelmed with there's a lot to watch in this event, and I'm having a tough time following the seniors at the same time as the women's and the open. I don't know about you guys. If either of you watched anything of the seniors?
I watched a little bit of the US. The USA seniors are always in the favorites. I'm not sure who picked who, but France came on strong at the end, I think. To gain that first spot. I think that I'm not sure, they don't have, some of the French names that they've had of the seniors in the past, but, Bridge is strong in France and has been for a long time. So I'm sure that, Indonesia, I believe, is Eddie Manapo and Henki Lasut, and they've been playing forever, and so that doesn't surprise me so much that they're in. I would say I'm not sure. I'm guessing that the USA teams are the favorite.
I mean, the Polish team is also very good, with Kowalski and
Tuzinski.
Not Tuzinski. Bukowski, Lasowski, Victor Markowitz, Jacek Romansky, and Jerzy Rusian. I've played those guys several times, or some combination of those guys in the Vanderbilt and Spingold. They always seem to play quite well.
Yeah. Poland, Bridge is also very strong in Poland, so... Yeah, they were a team that was, it was kind of maybe a little surprised they didn't make it in the Open. It definitely hurts that they don't.
That was definitely the biggest shock in the Open, is that Poland didn't qualify. I thought they were a threat to win the whole thing, and they just never caught momentum. Poland, I mean, they didn't have
not having Zinzinski and Balicki, obviously, just that there are probably one or two or three at most of the top greatest pairs in the world, and to not have a pair like that, even though you can replace them with a very good pair, I mean, that's just like, it's got to be a little, demoralizing.
Yeah.
It seems to me, in a sense, they played and they got Poland to qualify for the Bermuda Bowl, but probably had no intentions of actually playing.
Yeah, it seems like they don't, really have too much interest in needing to play for the Polish national team. I'm not sure exactly.
I don't think they've ever really had that much interest. They have their sponsorship deal with Pierre Zimmerman for the transnational teams, and the same reason that these guys are able to be as good as they are is because they're able to get hired for bridge events, and I guess I don't know, no national pride or whatever. So.
Well, at least the national pride might not outweigh, the need for making a living and doing well at that,
There's some national pride, or else they wouldn't have played with Poland in order to help them qualify for the Bermuda Bowl. Because without those two guys playing, there's certainly a chance that Poland might not even be here.
Yeah, agreed.
Right, but no, there's no reason that they wouldn't be allowed to do that or wouldn't do that. It's I think it's normal for European teams to just for them to field different teams for their European championships and their World Championships. It's not like the team that goes to the Europeans would automatically go to the World Championship. In fact, I know from my wife trying to be on the Swedish team that it was often a completely different team for the Europeans in the World Championships.
But I think in the Open it stays the same a lot of the time. There's an argument about that you should have the team that wins the qualification, or that gains a qualification for the World Championships should, under most circumstances, be the same team that's playing.
What's to prevent one of those teams from replacing a pair with a client?
I don't know. I
don't think there's any rules as far as what a national team does with their berth.
Yeah, which is interesting because you think that might be something that maybe a client wants to hire 3 pairs and then can, make a deal sweet enough such that one of the pairs doesn't play. I know that they have that for the American team, that they have that in their rules, in their, code of conduct, but I'm not sure about any other teams,
Right, so something left to sort of the national bridge organizations and not really governed by the WBF.
Yeah. And, in my opinion, you should, let anybody do kind of what they want to do,
Yeah, I don't think it's fair for the World Bridge Federation to set guidelines for that sort of thing. It's just not.
No, not at all.
Yeah. I mean, we could look at a scenario, too, where Monaco, for example, Zimmerman's playing for Monaco. He could decide, okay, we'll get another strong player, and then Monaco, sorry. Then I'll hop on when it's time to play in the Bermuda Bowl.
Yeah, that's why I think that if they didn't have those rules, that something like that might have already happened a little bit more. That you would see it happen more often.
Well, I just don't think that anybody would really I think the same person who wants to win a world championship wants to win the European championships. I don't see why that they would ever send a team. It's not like the end goal. I think that Europeans find the European championship just as prestigious as the Bermuda Bowl. And that being said, there's no playing requirements in the European championship. One pair could, you can be on the team and not play any boards. I don't think it really matters. I don't think that they need a rule for that sort of thing. I just don't think it would ever happen that somebody would hire 6 people to play the European Championships and then buy their spot onto the team. I find it hard to believe that could happen.
Why not?
I just don't see any benefit.
What about the U.S.? Like, if you can't play for the U.S. team, because
I can see it happening. I mean, in the U.S. get automatic berths. I think it's a different. I don't know. To me, I couldn't see it happening in the U.S. team where a pair would pay for 3 pairs to win the trials for them so that they could play the Bermuda Bowl. I mean, maybe that could happen, but I would be shocked.
Say a guy didn't play that trials, and now he wants to have a team, and he wants to play. Could he go to another country then, and then buy 3 partnerships with that team, or maybe there's a country that has already picked 2 and hasn't picked a third.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's why I think there's some maybe guidelines even within other countries, because I think we would have heard of somebody at least trying to negotiate for something like that already, and we have.
perhaps, but I don't think that very many other countries have reached that level of professionalism. Like I don't think that there's so many people that would even hire a team outside of the United States. That there's only a couple countries that Pro Bridge even exists in. You know, England and Italy.
Well, do you think Jimmy Kane has offered the Italians to say, "Hey, can I be on your team for a certain amount of money"?
In Italy, I don't think that he's done that. I wouldn't. I would guess that he would.
Do you think he maybe asked if it was okay?
Maybe if he's watching this broadcast, we might see some fireworks, and then maybe he'll instigate it. But I can't.
I mean, I'm thinking that the thought has crossed his mind.
You're American born. Could you ever imagine yourself going and trying to buy a team to play for a different country because you couldn't win the American trials? Like,
if I wanted to win the Bermuda Bowl and I was a client, I wouldn't feel the need. You know, I would like to win the Bermuda Bowl for my country, but if I couldn't do that, I would like to win the Bermuda Bowl for myself.
Yeah, so how do you think the easier route would be to go and try to get on the Italian team than to hire the Italians to come and move to the United States and play for your team? You know, I don't know. I think that's what happens much more often is that you see these.
I think players move, you know, to play. Usually, they don't do it just to play for one team in particular. Maybe at first they have that idea, but eventually they have to realize that they might not be on that team forever. But I only use Jimmy Kane because he's like a typical example. He plays with the Italians in all of his tournaments throughout the year. So why not get them for the biggest one, you know?
Yeah.
If it's possible.
Well, we'll wait and see if that happens. I think that this is awesome. I've really enjoyed talking to you guys. Thank you, John, for coming and hanging out and talking about I don't know about you guys, but I'm super excited for these knockout matches. I think that this is the best display of bridge that there is, and it only happens once every 2 years. I'm so excited.
I'm super psyched too. I'm going to be busy this week, but I know that I'm going to get up pretty early in the mornings, unfortunately, and be wanting to just watch these instead of going back to bed, which has been happening for me over the past week. So.
Yeah.
Exactly, I agree. Also, I want to point you guys to Steve Weinstein had a very interesting interview with the captain of the French women's team, Thomas Bassis. That's up on bridgewinners.com, so check that out as well.
Yeah, and we'll be continuing our live coverage, and hopefully we'll have another powwow like this after this quarterfinals and see what's up and what we think about the next round. Thanks, guys.
I like it, and thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.